At Center for Spiritual Living Beaumont, we believe in spiritual living. Above all else, it is a philosophy that teaches us how to think and not what to think. We invite everyone to practice this philosophy by living in principle. We believe that God is all there is, and each person's relationship to God is a personal one. Every person, place, and thing, and all the space in between is not only an expression of God, but God itself. All love, peace, and beauty that is God exists within each person right now. Together we are all connected as one. Our faith allows us to apply this philosophy to our lives in every moment of every day. As we live in love, we see love revealed and flowing through the world around us. We act as citizens of this spiritual community at all times. This is how we think. We believe in God, we believe in ourselves, and we believe in you because we believe in spiritual living. We are the Center for Spiritual Living Beaumont.
Yes, we are. We surely are the Center for Spiritual Living here in Beaumont. And you know, in every moment, right here and right now, we're gathered for our spiritual sustenance. It doesn't make any difference where we are, on Zoom or here. We know that God is with us at all times. God is our source. And we know that presence and the power is right here within each one of us. And it is God. It is God. In the beginning, God, all there was. God made us after his image and likeness. And so we're not only guided by God, by Spirit, but we also are surrounded, each one of us, with love, with joy, with wisdom, harmony, peace, and grace. I bless our media technicians as the service flows with ease and grace. For the musicians whose words and voices enhance our spirit, we are the light that we just heard. I bless Neil, our favorite son, for his words and voice are the words of God. And as we listen, we hear what we need to hear. He says what we need to hear. And we just know that all is well in our home. Knowing this, I rest, I listen, and we share the words that we hear. And so it is.
All right, so good morning again. Thank you for that lovely invocation. But with all due respect to Evonne, I don't necessarily say what you guys need to hear. I always say what I need to hear, because I used to do this thing on Wednesday nights, and I always used to stand up here and say, you guys just sit back and listen to me talk to myself for 20 minutes, because as it never fails, I'm always the one that needs to hear my message more than anybody else. So, good morning again. My name is Neil Hayner. As I mentioned before, I'm happy to be with you again this week. And the theme for Center for Spiritual Living worldwide has been this year, Living Everyday Wonder, and talking about how our spiritual principles and how our spiritual practices intersect with our life on a daily basis. So taking it to apply, not just here on Sunday mornings, right, but also into our lives on a daily basis. And so our monthly theme this month has been emotions. And the first week this month, we talked about the power of emotions and the message that they send us, that they are part of our spiritual practice, that they give us that information, that they call us to be mindful, that they're just as important not to avoid or bury, but to use as a spiritual tool. Last week, we talked about the faith factor, about the idea of the emotion of fear, right? That fear is also a form of faith, right? When we have fear in something, it's not that we don't have faith, it's that we're placing our faith in something else. And this week, if you hadn't noticed, we're going to be talking about happiness and joy. So the title of today's talk is, If You're Happy and You Know It. Can you fill in the blank? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. So I have a little story for you to start off this morning. A big dog saw a puppy chasing its tail and asked, "Why are you chasing your tail that way?" The puppy replies, "I have studied philosophy and solved the problem of the universe, which no other dog before me has ever solved. And I have found out that the best thing for a dog in life is happiness, and that my happiness is found in my tail. That is why I am chasing it, and when I catch it, I will reach happiness." And the old dog looked at him and said, "Son, in my young days, I was also interested in the questions of the universe. I also thought that happiness is in the tail, and in the beginning, I also was chasing it. But later, I noticed that wherever I go and whatever I do, the tail was following behind me. And then I understood that I don't need to chase it." And I can tell you from my own personal puppy experience that there is nothing quite as enthusiastic and joyful as a puppy. My puppy loves to bark at bunnies in my backyard. It does not matter how far away the bunny is. It does not matter if he will ever catch the bunny. There is simply joy in barking at the bunny, as loudly and as frequently as possible. He is definitely in his bliss when he's barking at bunnies. But we all have this idea, right, of chasing our tail, of chasing happiness. And we know that joy is this high vibrational energy. We know that when we're in joy and we're feeling happy, that we're in the flow, that we feel that divine energy, that we feel like we're in alignment with the universe and all is well. And the universe is working for us and we feel like we're on the right track. But we're chasing our tail. In our culture and society, it's easy to get caught up in this idea of chasing happiness, of chasing joy. If I just had more money, if I just had the right job, if I just had the right relationship. You know, religious science and mental science and New Thought used to be all about manifesting the princes, the palaces, and the parking spots. Right? If you could get the prince, if you could get the palace, or if you could manifest the parking spot, that was the goal of our spiritual practice. Then we would be happy, right? If I could just get the right palace, if I could just get the right prince, if I could just, get rid of all those minor annoyances like not being able to find a parking spot, then I would be happy. But my question for you this morning is, what is the source of your happiness? You see, in this faith and philosophy that we call science of mind, or religious science, it's really about cause and effect. That's why we call it a science. It is the spiritual principle behind cause and effect. It follows that natural law. But we get it reversed. We think that if I can just get that thing out there, then I will be happy. That's the cause. The cause of my happiness is out there, and I need to pursue it. I need to change it. I need to chase it in order to be happy. But our faith, our philosophy, our spiritual living calls us to a higher state of being, a higher consciousness. And that is that we have this thing called our consciousness that is the sum total of all of our thoughts, all of our beliefs, all of our attitude, all of our previous experience that we call the consciousness, and it's that which is creative. So it flips this idea of cause and effect on its head. We know from biblical principles that the kingdom of God is within you. That means that cause is here. That means that cause is here. What is the source of my happiness? Is it the things that are outside of me? Is it the things that are in the world? Is it all those princes, palaces, and parking spots, those material things that I can manifest and create? Not that that's anything wrong with that, but what is the source of our happiness? Our faith, our philosophy says that the source is within. We go within to find that joy. We go within to find that happiness. You see, because if our happiness is based on conditions, if our happiness is based on conditions, those conditions can change. And when they do change, our joy evaporates. Now, will things change? Of course they will. The good news is, this too shall pass. The bad news is, this too shall pass. This is one of the great teachings, gifts of the teachings of Buddhism. And a lot of us carry on this misconception that Buddhism's all about saying like, oh, life is suffering. If you're alive, you're going to suffer. But that's a really misunderstanding of the teachings of Buddhism. What Buddhism says is that it is your attachment to things that will inevitably change that causes suffering. It is your attachment to the things that will change that causes your suffering. You see, if the source of my joy is my job, what happens when I get laid off? If the source of my job is my new car, what happens when I get in a car accident? If the source of my job is my relationship, what happens if that person suddenly passes away? You see, those are things in this world. Those are things that can change. And Buddhism doesn't teach that life is nothing but suffering. What it says is put your priorities in the right spot. Don't get attached to things that will inevitably change, because they will. Does that mean that life is just sad and I can't ever be happy because it's all temporary? Of course not. In fact, the opposite is true. When I remember that everything changes and the stuff out there is all temporary, I can find joy in living in the present moment. I remember that those things are temporary, they're going to change. So I become in a place of gratitude and joy in remembering to enjoy them while they're here. Eckhart Tolle says in his book, The Power of Now, as soon as you honor the present moment, all unhappiness and struggle dissolve, and life begins to flow with joy and ease. Who doesn't need some more joy and ease in their life? You see, then the question becomes, if I knew that this thing, this source of my happiness was temporary, would I appreciate it more? If I knew that this thing, the source of my happiness, is temporary, would I appreciate it more? You see, then I become grateful. If I'm happy and I know it, then I'm grateful. That's where the title of this talk comes from. If I'm happy and I know it, then I'm grateful. You see, gratitude is the key to unlocking joy and happiness in our lives. If I'm happy because I have something, the car, the house, the relationship, the job, then my happiness is dependent on something that will inevitably change, shift, or leave. But when I'm happy and joyful because I'm grateful, then my joy becomes a choice. It's an act of volition, and I can choose to be grateful no matter what is going on in the outside world. I always am at choice. I always have that capacity within me to choose to be grateful in this moment. The science of mind cliche says, what you appreciate, appreciates. It gains value. What you appreciate, appreciates. Now, I have found that when I'm feeling really stressed or depressed or lonely, really the only way that I can change my mental atmosphere when I'm really feeling down is through gratitude. But I hear you saying, but Neil, have you seen the news lately? We have shootings, we have wars, we have racism, we have conflict. How can I feel grateful for that? But here's where the spiritual principle applies. Because even in the midst of darkness, there is light. and the darkness has no power of its own. How do we bring the light? We bring the light to every situation by knowing that in the midst of all of that conflict, all of that darkness, all of that conflict, that God is there too. That even in the midst of pain, even in the midst of people in the world suffering, there are things that we can be grateful for. Our first responders, our nurses, our doctors, our EMTs, our paramedics, who show up even in the midst of all of that drama. Find something to be grateful for. There's this war going on in Europe with Russia and Ukraine. What is there to be grateful about that? Look how it's brought the world community together in a lot of ways. How many people in this world, including Russians themselves, have stood up and said, that's not who I'm choosing to be. There's always something to be grateful for. Brene Brown, who you saw in our Words of the Wise video, said this: in addition to creating happiness in our lives, cultivate the spiritual practices that lead to joyfulness, especially gratitude. We need to live from a place of gratitude and joy. Gratitude is the key to unlocking joy in our lives. So who wants more joy in their life? Here's a question you might ask yourself. What am I really grateful for at this moment? What am I really grateful for at this moment? It's those little things that Brene Brown was talking about. What little things have I forgotten to be grateful for? The next time you get bad news, or you're having a bad day, or having a conflict, stop and choose to be grateful. You start with yourself, and you work your way out. Sitting in contemplation, sitting in meditation, you start with your body. I'm grateful for my lungs that allow me to breathe. I'm grateful for my heart. I'm grateful for my legs that allow me to walk. And you expand out. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for living in this country of freedom and self-expression. And you just gently work your way out into greater and greater circles of gratitude. And after you get all the way out and you're just grateful for the whole world, I challenge you not to feel like something has shifted in your life. That's gratitude. You see, gratitude is not an effect of joy. It's not I'm joyful and then I'm grateful for being joyful. It's the other way around. I'm grateful, and from that gratitude comes joy. Did you know that gratitude is so important that it's built into our spiritual practice? It is so important that it's actually one of the steps to what we teach, we call affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. There is a thanksgiving step built into the process that we teach as prayer. Ernest Holmes had another name for it. He called it acceptance. You see, you can't have joy if you're not willing to accept it. You can have as much joy and good as you're willing to accept. What if we put that another way? What if we can have as much good and as much joy as we're willing to be grateful for? What if we can have as much good and as much joy as we're willing to be grateful for? In a lot of ways, in our prayer work and in our contemplation, Thanksgiving is something that kind of often gets glossed over. And I'm grateful for this, and I know that it is, and so it is. And we kind of jump right over it. I challenge you this week, as you are spending some time in prayer and contemplation, to really sink a little bit deeper into that step of prayer, to be a little bit more grateful. You see, our gratitude is creative. We're not giving thanks to God out there for doing us a favor or granting our wish. We're grateful first. as if the thing we are praying about is already true. It's already done. Our gratitude is creative. It helps us reach that state of spiritual and mental acceptance. It's not that thing that we wish to manifest or that thing that we're trying to shift is not out there in the future. It is here, now. I can choose to be grateful now. I can choose to be happy now. Not when I get the car, not when I get the relationship, not when something out there changes. I can choose to be grateful no matter what is going on in my universe. So this week, my invitation or my challenge to you is to find joy in life by being grateful for it. As you wait at that stoplight, make a list of things that you're grateful for. If you're having a bad day, stop and find something to be grateful for, because there's always something to be grateful for. If someone you know is getting on your nerves, that never happens, right? If someone is getting on your nerves, choose to stop and find 5 things that you're grateful for about them. Watch how that shifts your mental atmosphere and brings you joy. If there's something in your life that you would like to shift or change, practice being grateful for it as if that shift or change has already happened. And get to that state of spiritual acceptance. It's already done. And if you haven't told someone how grateful you are for their role in your life or the ways in which they support you, I challenge you to let them know, because I guarantee you it will bring them joy. Here's the truth. Because if I'm happy and I know it, then I'm grateful. And if I'm grateful, I can't help but be happy. And so it is. And so I invite the ministers and practitioners that are with us here this morning to join me in the atmosphere of prayer this morning. I know that this Beaumont Center for Spiritual Living is a community of love. It is a community of high consciousness. And the people who are standing here in front of you this morning are just a representation of that consciousness. And so we take this opportunity to root ourselves, to ground ourselves in the truth. That there is only one power, one principle, one presence, which we call love, which we call God, which we call infinite, which we call peace, order, balance, grace, ease, abundance. It is that energy, it is that mind that is back of everything in creation, because it is everything in creation. It is not only the source of everything in our life, it is life itself. There is only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. And that life is our life now. It is who and what we are. We are that love. We are that grace. We are that ease. We are that divine and perfect divine right action, unfolding in perfect ways. We share in the divine nature because it is who and what we are. And so knowing that that is true, I can speak my word in confidence this morning for every single person within the sound of my voice, whether here or in person, knowing that the divine, the joy of the divine, is showing up as their life right here and right now. And I speak my word for any person within the sound of my voice who is experiencing lack or limitation, knowing that that divine spirit of joy, that divine spirit of infinite love is making straight all the crooked ways. that divine grace, that divine balance, that divine abundance is showing up wherever it is claimed, wherever it is known. And so I speak my word this morning for our beloved Donna McNeese Smith, knowing that there is an ease of movement, that there is joy and love in her body, that divine right action is taking place even now, bringing about and revealing that wholeness which she is right here and right now. And we just sink into gratitude. Grateful for our lives. Grateful for our bodies. Grateful for all of those beloveds with whom we share our lives. Grateful for this spiritual community, for its gifts in the world, its gifts in my life. Grateful for all of my spiritual awareness and growth. Grateful for whatever is coming to your mind right now. In the silence of your own mind, just simply be grateful. Grateful for the love, grateful for the challenges, grateful for the difficulties, grateful for it all. Because truly it is all God. It is all good. And this morning we claim that good. We accept it. We're grateful for it. And we know it is showing up in infinite ways, in infinite love. And we release this word into that law which always says yes, that always reflects back to us perfectly everything that has been placed in it. And together we say, and so it is. And so now I invite you to stand and join in hands if you would like to sing our peace song, after which we will close with our benediction. So I invite you to place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. There is this thing called joy. Joy is in my mind. Joy is in my body. Joy is in all my affairs. I embrace it. I am grateful for it. And so it is. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you for joining us for our Sunday service. Please remember to like, comment, and share this video on Facebook, YouTube, and any other social media you are a member of. To donate to CSL Beaumont, you can text GIVE to 951-420-6909, or you can visit our website at cslbeaumont.org and click the donate button at the top or bottom of the page. You can also mail your donation to CSL Beaumont, 802 Maple Avenue, Beaumont, California, 92223. Have a blessed day, and namaste.